Resolution Management Conference in FC 2013-007388, Jason Baker and Carrie Sharber. Mr. Baker, tell me your full name, please.
Jason Jonathan Baker.
Thank you. Ms. Sharber, your full name as well.
My maiden name that's on the docket is Carrie Lynn Sharber. My current last name that has legally been changed is now Moeda.
Thank you. As I said, we're set for the Resolution Management Conference. I apologize. I was running just a tad behind based on the last hearing. So give me just one moment to open up your guys' stuff. Okay. So we've got, Ms. Sharber, we've got your petition to modify that you recently filed. I know you also had filed that expedited request to enforce. So Mr. Baker, I'll go ahead and start with you. Have you had a chance to review specifically her petition to modify?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Any thoughts, concerns, requests, agreements?
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of concerns with the things that she wrote. I'd like to address the reasons why James has not been to her house for a visit, if I may.
Go ahead.
So, in the spring of 2022, it was March 30th, 2022. Miss Sharber, I'm sorry, can I just call you Miss Sharber for now? Anyway,
I'm staying with Miss Sharber in the court system. That's fine.
Okay. So she emailed me to ask if I would sign for a passport application for James. And per the passport regulations, which states that both parents of a minor child must agree and sign to the application, I refused to grant her request and reminded her that she had previously threatened to take James and disappear with him if she ever gotten the chance and opportunity to do so. She informed me at the time that she would find another way to obtain a passport for James. At the time, I didn't take her word seriously because I knew the regulations obtaining a passport. On July 19th, 2022, July 18th, I brought James back to Ms. Sharber after our weekend visit. The following day, on the 19th of July, Ms. Sharber emailed me to inform me that James, her partner, and her were on their way to Mexico for a week-long vacation. This was in direct violation of the custody agreement we had at the time that did not permit international travel with James and showed 50-50 custody. And in the email, she also stated that there would be no further communication until they returned home, including the court-mandated weekly phone calls between James and I at the time. It was then I realized that Ms. Sharber had kept her threat of finding another way of obtaining a passport for James. I immediately contacted the local authorities who directed me to the State Department. I provided the agent, Brian Campbell, with copies of the custody agreement as well as the email thread between Ms. Sharber and me regarding the passport. The agent informed me the only way Ms. Sharber could have obtained a passport without my consent was to have a birth certificate for James that did not list a father and that they would investigate the matter. Now, when we both split, when James was about 2 years old, when the case was first opened and I petitioned for custody, a paternity test was ordered, which proved that I was James' father. The judge ordered the birth certificate to be amended to name me as the father for the original, and that the original copy that Ms. Sharber had be destroyed. Apparently, Ms. Sharber did not destroy the original since she was able to obtain a passport for James and took him out of the country using said passport. And with talking with the agent at the State Department, there is nothing I could do to get him back. We have no agreements with any other country to return a child, and Ms. Sharber is still in possession of said fraudulent passport. That was a major concern with me. Ms. Sharber is also moved and not didn't even tell me she moved. We found out when I dropped my son off to his friend's house for a sleepover. When I inquired about where she moved to, she won't give me any information. She refuses to even tell me the city, any major cross streets, or anything. This is also in violation of our current custody agreement, which states I'm to be notified of any address change. Next, we have the sexual assault of, I'm sorry?
Your Honor, you're on mute. I can't hear you.
Judge, you're muted.
I apologize. I don't know when that happened. Ms. Sharber, this is not trial. This is not, he's kind of updating me from his perspective, which I asked him to do. So I will allow you a chance, okay? Go ahead, sir.
All right. Next comes the sexual assault of James. As you know, last year I was awarded primary custody of James as Ms. Sharber petitioned the court to do so. And that was in mid-September. Sometime in October, James revealed that he'd been sexually assaulted multiple times at his stay in a DCS group home in Phoenix in 2021. The DCS case manager assigned to this case at the time, Amber Warfield, only informed Ms. Sharber of the assaults. At no time did Ms. Warfield or Ms. Sharber file a police report or inform the court or attorneys or me of the assaults. As soon as I became aware of this information, I emailed Ms. Sharber to inform her and ask her to see if she had anything else about the assaults. Ms. Sharber ignored my emails for 2 weeks before finally responding with, "I thought you knew." During the time I was waiting for a response from Ms. Sharber, I contacted local authorities and police in Phoenix and the sheriff's department and was informed that there was no record of a police report ever being filed for the sexual assaults and that the statute of limitations had now expired. Next, we have the harmful communication. And after James moved in with me, I gave Ms. Sharber James's phone number. He has his phone. He's 13 years old. Yeah, I'm sure, as you know, with any teenager, he lives on it. So I gave the phone number to Ms. Sharber and her partner, and they engaged in text and phone calls with James. And some of them were unhealthy and inappropriate, including telling James to keep information from me and my wife that they were communicating. The primary concern is Ms. Sharber's partner, who is a biological female choosing to identify as a male named Daniel. When James was still primarily in Sharber's care, Daniel would repeatedly try to coerce James to refer to him as Dad, becoming upset when James did not want to do so because Daniel is not his dad. Once James moved in with me, Daniel texted James excessively, telling him to keep the conversations a secret from us, meaning my wife and me, and trying to convince James how he was a better father because of James. After reading the text, I, my wife, and the youth pastor at our church were very concerned. I decided that the safe way for James to still be in communication with Daniel was for it to be a group text thread with Daniel, James, and myself, so I could monitor Daniel's language. Daniel decided to cease communication with James at that time. Ms. Sharber's relationship with this person has been a point of confusion for James for some time, though I was not able to do much about it when Ms. Sharber had primary custody. I believe I already touched on the unknown address and the fact that to the date, Ms. Sharber has yet to give me any kind of even possible area that she lives in the valley. I said with a condition, even not knowing any of these stuff and the things that had happened, I said, I will let James go to you, provided the fact that he is allowed to have his cell phone with him so he can contact me at any given time or moment and I him. James' mother responded with, well, I have a flip phone for him he can use when he's here. In the past, that never worked out well because she never gave him the phone, i.e. when she took to him to Mexico. He had no way to call me and let me know that he was being taken out of the country. The parenting plan that she is wanting to use the Communication of Family Wizard app that we used in the past, and it requires like $100 subscription fee to which we are both supposed to contribute. But Ms. Sharber said early on after I got in custody that we didn't really need to do that. That was extra money that was not necessarily, and we rarely communicate as is. Ms. Sharber is also requesting the court to order the use of a third-party service to preside over the transfer of James for her visits. Now, when he was younger, in the beginning of the custody battle, we did have such a service to protect James. James is now 13 years old. At this time, I do not feel we need such a service, especially since we have not needed or used such a service for the past 3 or 4 years. If we ever need such a service again, I would request that we use the previously used company, Project One Investigations, as they are fair, unbiased, and only had James's best interest in mind. Ms. Sharber is asking the court to order me to pay for this service. However, the responsibility is of the non-custodial parent to pay for these services. Also, under the religious education arrangements portion of the parenting plan, Ms. Sharber selected the clause that states both parties agree that religious arrangements are not acceptable to this plan. However, Ms. Sharber did not discuss any of this with me at the time, and I do not agree with the statement. James attends church regularly, almost every Sunday, and is a junior leader in the fourth and fifth grade classes. He also attends the junior high youth group on Wednesdays, as well as summer camp, and enjoys all of it. Also, Ms. Sharber is petitioning the court to grant her visitation times that include having James for the entirety of every school break, with the exception of the 2-week Christmas break and summer break. This is what she had with her former attorney draft in the reversal, and I didn't really agree with that at the time, but I pretty much had no option. If I didn't agree to the plan, there wasn't going to be the agreement. Since it's now reopened, I would request, if granted, that the court order a more reasonable visitation for James' school breaks, including the summer, to allow both parents the opportunity to have family vacations with James during those times and allow him to attend summer camp, which he really likes.
Thank you, sir.
After James moved in with me,
I'm gonna go back to Ms. Sharber now, okay? So,
okay.
Ms. Sharber, what did you wish to tell the court?
Just a couple of points, I guess. That was a lot of information. The address, my address is currently protected with the courts. The current court order or agreement, does state that my address is to stay protected, both my home and work addresses. Mr. Baker is supposed to release his address, especially if he's moved out of Maricopa County. He is living in Apache Junction. He has been living there for over a year now, and I still do not know his address. Sorry.
I do have a response to those, Your Honor, when I get
not yet, sir.
When I get the chance. Yeah.
Well, let me frame it a little bit more for you, Ms. Sharber. What are you specifically asking for? I know you've got the petition for contempt, and you're saying he didn't follow the court's scheduling. But what are you asking for with respect to the modification?
With the modification, I'm asking for the third-party involvement to ensure that the visitation schedule is followed as it is agreed upon or ordered upon, because I have not seen James for over a year now, since he was given to his father at the start of the current order is the last time I've seen James. I have had minimal phone contact with him because the text messages are watched and read by Mr. Baker, and it makes James uncomfortable as well as myself. I mean, I can't have any form of connective conversation with my son without his dad being a part of it. I haven't had a phone call with him in months. I'm really just requesting that some sort of contingency be put into place to ensure that the visitation is followed as is respectfully asked for. I've not asked for a change in visitation times. I'm still just requesting to keep supposed to have him for his 1 week breaks during school and then 1 month during the summer, which is for most schools, unless his is different, a 2-month break. Also requesting that if father does not continue, or if father continues to not follow the visitation orders and allow for private, unwatched communication as the court order states, and as one of the ARS, I don't remember the number, I'm sorry, also dictates, unless the court deems is necessary otherwise, that the court take back over the dictation of the visitation schedules, so it no longer be under the agreement of the parents, but under what the court deems best for the child.
Thank you. So here's what we're going to do. Give me one moment.
Your Honor, may I respond real fast?
No, but thank you, sir. So here's what we're going to do. With respect, so you've got the two petitions, Ms. Sharber. You've got the petition for contempt and enforcement, and then the petition to modify. At this time, the court does not believe that there's been a material change in circumstances to warrant the petition to modify. So the court is going to dismiss the petition to modify. The changes you're seeking are really with respect to the enforcement and contempt issue. So that will remain in place. The court does not believe that there's been sufficient circumstances to warrant the modification. So we're going to dismiss that. We are going to keep, though, the hearings that you have set for next week. So September 30th beginning at 1:30 will be your enforcement conference, and then the hearing will be at 2:45. So we're going to keep those in place so that the two of you can fully address the petition to enforce and for contempt.
Yes, Your Honor.
What questions do you have, Mr. Baker? I'll start with you.
I wasn't aware of another court date next week. I was never actually served papers. I was emailed. Ms. Sharber, I gave her my address a long time ago. And as I stated, James has his phone with him at all times. Ms. Sharber is more than welcome to call him and talk to him at any time she wants to. And he is more than welcome to call her at any time he wants to as well. That's not been an issue. The real issue with him going to her house. Here's part of the problem,
sir. It looks as though your mail is being returned to the court. So we need an updated address for you.
That's not possible, Your Honor. I got a letter from the court, not that long ago.
Okay.
When we moved, I provided my address to the court and to Ms. Sharber, both, and to her attorney.
So I'm going to affirm your guys' date next week, September 30th at 1:30, and again, September 30th at 2:45 after the conference to see if you've resolved it or not. But that hearing will remain in place. So, sir, any additional questions that you have at this time?
Well, the fact that Ms. Sharber is in possession of a fraudulent passport is a big concern for me, as it should be the courts, as she's already taken him out of the country and not notified me. And she refuses to give up this passport.
Those will be issues you'll address with the enforcement. Okay?
Okay.
Ms. Sharber, any questions for you then at this time?
Not at this time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you both. Best of luck next week. We will stand in recess.